Hey everyone, Sharkheart here, and in this video I'm bringing you an updated guide on how to build a really good account with very powerful characters right from the start. I've been helping a lot of people on stream who are wondering why everyone else seems to be doing a lot more damage than they are for a long time now. And we've also seen several accounts that are adventure rank 50 or higher and still need lots of help. And the reason is not because everyone else is a whale, but because somewhere along the way they didn't build their account properly. So let's talk about what goes wrong, how you can avoid it, and I'll also share a step-by-step strategy that is the most effective way to make your account the strongest possible. If you've seen my Start Strong guide, what I've said in that video is the most important thing to understand is that Genshin Impact is a game about resource management. And Genshin is tricky because you have plenty of resources at the start of the game, but they get used up very fast and are very difficult and time-consuming to replenish. The game is also really bad at explaining things and often leaves you to just figure it out on your own. So that's why I want to bring you this video, so you don't fall into these traps and hit these roadblocks that make the game unfun and make you feel weak. That's why we'll go over a few quick tips that will help everyone out so this doesn't happen to you, and then I'll go over a step-by-step process to make a really strong account without having to spend at all. And to accomplish this, we're going to focus on the priorities that maximize resin efficiency. Genshin's resin system is like other games' stamina system in that it holds you back from progressing, so understanding how to use it wisely will make a significant impact onto how well or how poorly you progress. And with that understanding, let's get into some big tips that will help everyone, and then we'll get into a step-by-step guide on how to improve your account the most effective and efficient way possible at each and every adventure rank. The first big tip is to commit to building one character first. The biggest mistake I see people make is that they spread their resources way too thin and have several semi-built characters instead of a few fully built characters. If you try to build all the characters at the same time, your resources will be way too depleted. So just focus on maximizing one character at a time. So if you're focusing on building one character at a time, which character should you choose? Well, Genshin has a lot of characters, so you want to be focused on building a high DPS character that can carry you through the game. This could be a really strong on-field DPS character or a very strong off-field DPS character. Just note that the main difference between the two is that off-field DPS characters can deal most of their damage off the field or when they're switched out because they have skills or bursts that persist even if they are switched out, while on-field main DPS characters have to stay active on the field and you have to play them on the field to get really any value out of them. And if you aren't sure which to use, then I'll have a picture of the on-field DPS and off-field DPS characters that I would recommend building on screen. You can pick whichever one you like the most or one that you just have the best weapon for. Now there is a little caveat with this. If you're brand new, you'll want to avoid any character that hails from Inazuma because you won't be able to level them beyond level 40 until you get to Inazuma, which can take a little while. So you may want to hold those characters in reserve, and I'll talk about what to do if you do want to build a new character later in the video. The next big tip is to make sure that when you are building a character, you are prioritizing the right things. When you start the game, character level is important, but later in the game you realize that character level is really not that important and you only level a character to really ascend them and raise their talents. Generally, the most efficient way to increase your damage is to prioritize your weapons, talent levels, and artifacts, and then prioritize your character level after all of that. The reason we focus on this is because everything tied to your character growth takes resin to achieve, so we prioritize what will cost the overall least resin for the most amount of increased damage. There is an exception to this rule where certain characters don't actually need their talents leveled but want their character level to be as high as possible, but those exceptions are few, and if you are curious about them, feel free to ask me about them on stream if you have characters like Nilou or Sucrose. But since that is an exception and not what happens with most characters, we're going to go over the most efficient way to increase your damage for the widest amount of the player base. So now that you have a general understanding of how to maximize your account, let's go over the step-by-step process. It's important to understand this is a progressive guide, meaning that it assumes you completed the previous steps before moving on to the next ones. So if you're adventuring 33, but did not do the steps between AR1 and AR30, make sure to check those sections out to ensure that you are on the right track. Enough talking about the mistakes that most people make, let's talk more about how to make your account the strongest at each adventure rank. Phase 1 of building your best account starts from adventure rank 0 to adventure rank 15. The first thing you want to do is level your weapon to level 20. This is roughly a 123% increase over a level 1 weapon, so over double damage here. Next, we want to get your artifact feather to +4. This gives you flat attack, which is not good later in the game, but it is really valuable early on. When leveling up your feather artifact, try to get one that is a 3-star rarity or higher, and if it has attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, or elemental mastery as one of the substats, that's even better. But don't worry about the substats here, just use an artifact of the highest rarity, which at this point should be a 3-star artifact, because the higher the rarity of your artifact feather, the more attack it will give you. Once you find a decent artifact feather, then use white or green artifacts to level it up to +4. And just a really important tip, you don't need to be hung up on artifacts at this stage, you just need to get some decent ones with good main stats and then slowly level them up over time. The reason is that this can be a huge waste of resin if you're trying to farm artifacts too early, so wait until at least adventure rank 40 or ideally adventure rank 45 so you can guarantee getting 5-star artifacts every run. And there's already way too much RNG involved in getting good artifacts, so you want to make sure you're getting the best value for your resin when you do actually start to farm them. And if you're curious about the artifact system and what makes a good artifact, I have a very thorough guide that goes over everything you need to know, which will be linked in the description of this video. Finally, for this stage, you'll want to get your chosen character to level 19. You can get them to level 20, but if you do, they won't gain any experience from fighting monsters until you can ascend them, so it's best to get them one level below the level cap, so that way you can still gain experience from defeating enemies. This is a trend you'll notice as the guide progresses, and it's designed to save you a little bit on experience books, which will become very rare later in the game. Leveling your characters is about a 28% damage increase here, so it's significantly less than leveling your weapon and artifact feather, but it is still good. If you have other good supporting characters, you can level them up to 19 as well, as the requirements right now are not too harsh. Characters like Fischl, Bennett, Xingqiu, Sucrose, and Rosaria are prime candidates because they are great supporting damage now and will continue to be great supports in the future. But honestly, you shouldn't stress about what characters you have right now because you will get a lot more in the future. So as an option here, you can level your 3 other characters to 19 and get everyone's offensive artifacts to +4, but it's not necessary, especially since you probably won't have very good artifacts of the 3-star variety, or many other artifacts to even level those artifacts up at this stage in the game. Once you reach adventure rank 15, it's time for your first character ascension. You can now ascend your characters and then level them up to 40, but that's not actually what we're going to do first. Instead, we're going to level our weapon to 40, which will give about a 51% damage increase. Next, we'll take our level 19 character, get them to level 20 if they aren't already, ascend them, and level them up to level 39 after their first ascension. This is about a 19% damage increase overall. The third priority here is making sure you have a 3-star artifact feather, and it is leveled to +8. This is about a 6% damage increase overall. Your fourth priority in this stage is to level any other offensive artifacts you have to +8, which is about an 8% damage increase spread over your headpiece, goblet, and sands, provided they all have some sort of offensive main stat. At this point, you're more in a collecting phase than a building phase. What I mean by that is at this point you'll be doing a lot of exploring and collecting a lot of weapons, experience books, artifacts, and other items from all the various treasure chests that you'll find. You'll do this until adventure rank 24, and you shouldn't be too low on resources right now, so if you have some good characters that you'll think you'll use for a very long time, feel free to build them during this phase, because it's really not a waste to do so right now. The next big milestone we hit is world level 2. Previously, your world level automatically increased to world level 1 at adventure rank 20. But now, at adventure rank 25, we have to do a special quest called a World Ascension quest to increase the world level. That's why this section will cover adventure ranks 25 through 29. So the first thing you want to do is complete the special dungeon for the World Ascension quest. Now that your world level has increased to world level 2, you can do a lot more, especially with resin. But this can also be a trap, so that's why we want to start to be a lot more careful at this stage. Your first priority will be getting the weapon of the one character you chose to focus on to level 50. To do so, you'll need special weapon ascension materials, which you get from special weapon ascension domains. It'll take about 40 resin to get the special ascension materials you need for the weapons, but it will give you about a 42% damage increase by increasing your weapon level to 50, so it's well worth it. By this point, you may have found a 4-star artifact feather, and if you have, your second priority should be upgrading that feather to +8. You can either feed the 3-star artifact feather you are using to the 4-star artifact feather, or you can give your old 3-star artifact feather to another character on your team. Upgrading to a 4-star feather at +8 is about a 6% damage increase over your old +8 3-star artifact feather. After these first two steps and first two priorities, you'll then want to ascend your one character that you're focusing on. So since your character has already been leveled to 39, you want to get them to level 40 and then acquire the Ascension materials from world bosses and gather their necessary regional specialties so you can ascend them. Once ascended, their new level cap is 50, but we aren't going to level them up further, at least for right now. Instead, we're going to increase the character's relevant talents to level 2, and relevant talents are any of the ones that increase their damage. That's almost always their elemental skill and elemental burst, and it can sometimes be their normal attacks, but it's not always. If you're curious about how to build specific characters and which characters should level which talents, I have a video that is a quick summary of how to build just about every character in the game. That video will be in the description below, so you can check it out if you want to find out how to build specific characters. After your character has ascended and gotten their relevant talents up to level 2, they'll get about a 10% damage increase from both the Ascension and talent increase combined. So now that your character has ascended and we've leveled up their talents, it's time to put a few experience books into that character so we can increase their level to get it a little bit closer to our new level cap of 50. Specifically, we want to take the one character we're focusing on and get them to level 49, which is about a 7% damage increase overall. Remember, we're taking the character we're focusing on and leveling them up to one level below the maximum, which right now is currently 50, because we don't get any experience from monsters if we reach the level cap, so we want to stay one level below so we don't waste any experience. As you may notice, it's starting to take a lot more experience books to level up your characters, so we want to save where we can, and this leads to another big tip. Make sure to prioritize your weapon, talent, and character ascension materials first, but then farm experience books or Mora Leylines when you're not using your resin on any one of those special materials to upgrade your characters and their weapons. Once you've completed these steps and reached adventure rank 30, you'll be automatically ascended to world level 3. This phase will encompass adventure ranks 30 through 34, and at this point you'll really want to hone in on the one character you chose and build them, as your resources will become a lot more scarce. We're going to cover what you want to focus on in this stage, and I have a very important suggestion at the end of this section that will save you tons of headache later. The first priority for this stage is to get your weapon to level 60. You'll need to use about 40 resin in the weapon domain for your weapon ascension, and you'll get about a 15% damage increase from doing only a few domain runs. Your second priority is ascending your character. So they're currently level 49, and you want to fight the world bosses and get the Ascension materials you need, then level them to 50, and then ascend them so that you can level them past level 50. But just like before, we aren't increasing the character level any further right now. Instead, we're going to focus on increasing their talent levels first. Now that you have a newly ascended character, you are once again going to increase their talents, this time to level 4. Between your character ascension and increasing your relevant talents, you'll get about a 21% damage increase, and it will take roughly 160 resin to ascend your character and level their talents. Your third priority will be looking for 4-star artifacts and getting those 4-star artifacts to plus 12. You can do this as you explore the world, because special chests like the ones in the Shrines of the Depths or from big world quests will give you 4-star artifacts, so don't feel like you need to use resin on artifact domains here, because you don't, and honestly, it's just super inefficient to do so at this stage. And when you're leveling your artifacts, make sure to prioritize your feather first, and then any other artifacts with offensive main stats like attack percent, crit rate, and so forth. Getting your artifacts to plus 12 will give you about a 13% damage increase. The final thing you want to prioritize at this stage is leveling the character that you ascended to level 59. You've already ascended the character beforehand, and now that their level cap is at 60, you want to be one level just below that level cap, and doing so will give you only about a 7% damage increase, but it is still important for future upgrades. At this point, I'm going to make a really important recommendation that I didn't in the previous version of the guide because a lot of things have changed since I made that original video. I highly recommend at this point you take your time and slow down and do not ascend your world level at adventure rank 35. I believe it's really important to build the 4 main characters on your team right here and not do the World Ascension quest or ascend your world level any further right now because of the following 5 reasons. Number 1, you can accidentally ascend your world level way before you're ready. There wasn't nearly as much content in Genshin when I started, and all of the Archon quests and side quests and other types of quests available now will make you level a lot faster than I did. And if you just complete them as they come along, you'll increase your world level very rapidly, and the strength of the enemies you'll face will significantly outpace the strength of your characters, and then the game becomes really overwhelming and a lot less fun. Reason 2 is that enemies ramp up in difficulty very quickly after adventure rank 35. Up until now you can basically do nothing and the enemies will fall over, but from this point forward, the enemies will become a lot tankier and start to deal a lot more damage. You've basically been walking a very smooth path until now, but soon you'll start to climb a mountain. So you'll want to make sure that you and all of your characters are well built and prepared for the challenges ahead. The third reason not to ascend your world level right now is because you probably have gotten some new characters and may want to build some of them. By this point, you may have gotten better or just newer characters, and even a 5-star or 2 if you're lucky, and you may want to build them right away. But building characters takes time, and whenever you get a new character and you're really excited about building them, it's always a good idea to focus on building them up before trying to grind out a higher adventure rank. So if you want to replace the characters on your team and build up some new ones, now is a good point to start doing that, and make sure to follow the previous steps of this guide so that those characters are strong enough to take on the journey ahead. The fourth reason it's a really good idea to not do the adventure rank 35 World Ascension quest right now is because you never lose adventure rank experience. Unlike character level experience, which you do not gain if your level is capped, you never lose out on adventure rank experience. Even if your adventure rank is capped and you don't do the Ascension quest, any adventure rank experience you accumulate gets banked, so as soon as you ascend, you get all of that experience that you accumulated and it never goes to waste. People have gone from adventure rank 35 to 39 or more instantly after doing the adventure rank 35 Ascension quest because they spent a lot of time building up their characters to be really strong and had so much adventure rank experience banked and accumulated that they could just jump several levels at once. And the final reason to not ascend your world level past world level 3 and to not complete the adventure rank 35 Ascension quest is that you can still complete all of the limited time events for free Primo Gems and other really great rewards. As long as you're above adventure rank 32 and complete the Archon quest Rito Escape Plan, you should be able to do all of the special events for free 4-star characters and weapons, get a bunch of free Primo Gems, and even if the game suggests that you should be AR 40 plus, there's always the quick start option. Now, when the game makes you think there may be some consequence for choosing the quick start option, there isn't. There is absolutely no consequence for choosing the quick start option and doing the event early, other than you don't have to grind up to a higher adventure rank to start the limited time event. So for those 5 reasons, AR 35 is the perfect time to slow down and build your characters because you may outlevel your world too quickly, the enemies that you fight will start to become a lot harder, you probably have a couple new characters you want to build, you don't lose any adventure rank experience if you slow down and don't ascend your world level, and you can still do all of these special limited events for free Primo Gems and free 4 stars. You'll know you're ready for the next phase when it feels like you can defeat enemies really quickly and effortlessly, and your team has their weapons and talents maxed. Once you've completed these steps, it's time to move on to the next phase. After you've spent plenty of time to build up your characters and your team, it's time to take on World Level 4. This is a wall that a lot of people still face, but if you've been following this guide, it shouldn't pose too much of a problem for you. This phase encompasses adventure ranks 35 through 39. You may start to notice it takes significantly more resources to increase your weapons, talents, and character levels than it did before, and you may also find that your Mora, enhancement ore, and artifact experience are also becoming a lot more scarce. But if you've been taking your time and following this guide so far, you should be in a great position and not stuck in a rut where you feel like you're doing no damage and can't progress. The first thing you're going to do to begin this phase is complete the adventure rank 35 world level Ascension quest and increase your world level to 4. Once you've completed that world level Ascension quest, the first thing you're going to want to do is level your weapon up to 70. This will be about a 12% damage increase, and it will cost about 60 resin to get all of the necessary weapon ascension materials. After leveling your weapon, you'll want to ascend your character next. They should be level 59, so farm those world bosses and level them up to 60 and then ascend them. Like before, we're basically ascending our characters mostly so we can level up our talents, which is what we're going to want to do immediately after ascending. Once you ascend your character to level 60 plus, make sure to get their relevant talents up to level 6. You'll need about 320 resin to get the world boss ascension materials and the talent level up materials from the domains. And the damage increase you get from ascending your character and leveling up their talents to 6 is about 13.5%. To put this into perspective, this damage increase is only slightly higher than leveling a weapon, but it requires about 4 times as much resin to get these increases, and that's exactly the reason why we focus on the weapon first. After you've ascended your character to level 60 and gotten their talents to level 6, you'll want to get your 4-star artifact feather to plus 16, which is about a 4% damage increase. Since you don't need resin for this part, you can just do it as you're leveling your weapon or ascending your character. Since it's not worth farming artifacts at this point, just go around the world and use any 3-star, 2-star, or 1-star artifacts you find in treasure chests or from various little sparkly crates, and use those to level up your 4-star artifact feather. Finally, once you're done with all of this, you can level your recently ascended character to level 69.
Nice.
This is about a 5% damage increase, but it's going to cost about 300 resin to go from level 60 post Ascension to level 69, so not really that efficient. And while you can keep pushing your adventure rank further, this is a good time to slow down and build the other 3 characters on your team. You'll want to focus on getting their weapons to level 70, and then ascend them, and then getting them to level 60 plus, so that way you can get their talents to level 6. Then increase their artifact level, and move on to your next character. The beautiful thing about building your other 3 characters here is that once they're over level 60 with level 6 talents, you can keep them that way until about adventure rank 50. And while you should level their weapons to max as soon as you can, you don't actually need to max them out right away. Some of you may also want to start building out a second team for the Spiral Abyss so you can get those sweet extra Primo gems. This can be really enticing for some players, especially if they have some really good characters that synergize well with each other, but this isn't a necessity at all, it's just something to think about. Once you reach adventure rank 40, your world level automatically ascends without having to do any special quest and increases to world level 5. This section will focus on adventure ranks 40 through 45, and here, like always, your first priority is leveling your weapon up to level 80. This will be about a 10% damage increase and cost roughly 80 resin worth of weapon ascension domain runs to complete. Second on your priority list is to replace any 3-star artifacts you have with 4-star artifacts, and then get those 4-star artifacts to plus 16. You may have already done this in the previous step, but if you haven't, now is the time to do so, as this will be about a 14% damage increase. And if you want, if you're really itching to start farming artifacts, you can do so a little more earnestly here. But if you can hold off a little bit longer until adventure rank 45, it is much better, as you are guaranteed a 5-star artifact from every single adventure rank 45 artifact domain run. Once you've leveled your artifacts to plus 16, you'll want to ascend the one character you've been focusing on from level 69 to 70. So make sure to farm those world bosses, get those ascension materials, and then take that character from level 69 to 70 and then ascend them so their new level cap will be 80. Once you've leveled your weapon and ascended your characters, it's the perfect time to farm Leylines for Mora and experience books, as these next steps will come at adventure rank 45, but before you increase your world level again. So replenish your stock of Mora and experience books until you hit adventure rank 45, and once you do, it's time to slow down once again, just like we did at adventure rank 35. Which means once you hit adventure rank 45, do not complete the world level increase quest, do these steps instead. Adventure rank 45 unlocks the highest level artifact domains and talent domains automatically. And while you may be itching to farm artifacts, trust me, you'll do plenty of that. So let's first go with increasing your talent levels. By now, you'll have a level 70 plus ascended character, which means you can get your talents up to level 8. This should be your first priority at adventure rank 45. Increasing your talents to level 8 is about a 14% damage increase, and you'll need to use about 360 resin between the talent domains and weekly bosses to level your talents from level 6 to 8. Once you've leveled your talents to level 8, you'll want to take the character you ascended to level 70 and level them all the way up to level 79. This is about a 5% damage increase, and it will take about 320 resin to accomplish. But the next step can take unlimited amounts of resin to complete, so in comparison, getting a character to 79 is worth it. And that next step, and the thing you may have wanted to do for a while, is start farming artifacts. Do the highest level artifact domain available, which again will automatically unlock at adventure rank 45. In these domains, you'll be facing level 90 enemies, but you are guaranteed at least one 5-star artifact per run. However, those artifacts are not guaranteed to be good, so this part is very RNG dependent, and you could just get a bunch of garbage 5-star artifacts for a long time. When you first start farming artifacts, you'll want to prioritize getting a 5-star feather and leveling that first. you can take the plus 16 4-star artifact feather that you have currently and roll it directly into that 5-star artifact feather. Hopefully you have that artifact feather with some decent substats. Hopefully it has something like crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, or energy recharge. And even though artifacts are super random, going from a plus 16 4-star feather to a plus 20 5-star feather is about a 5% damage increase, so just get your 5-star feather and level it to plus 20. The next priority on the list is actually a huge increase in damage, but it can take massive amounts of resin to complete, and that is replacing all of your current artifacts with good 5-star artifacts. Artifact farming is really just super random and RNG dependent, so save this for last after leveling your weapons and talents, which are guaranteed to give you good return on your resin, unlike the lottery that is artifact farming. And if you want to know how to maximize your artifact grind so you're being as efficient as possible, my artifact guide goes into great detail on how to farm artifacts, how to pair different artifact sets, and so forth, so I'll have that linked in the description for you. But the TLDR for right now is that you want to replace your 4-star artifacts with 5-star artifacts with desirable main stats and get them to plus 16 at first, not to plus 20, with the exception of your artifact feather. Over time, you'll replace these artifacts with better and better ones, so don't stress about getting the god-rolled artifacts right away. A good set of artifacts with proper main stats and good substats can give you a 25% increase in damage, but it can literally take infinite amounts of resin to get all god tier artifacts, so just use the best pieces you have available because you'll be farming a lot of artifacts from here on out. You can stay in this phase for a really long time if you want, and there's really no major disadvantage for doing so. And in fact, I recommend that at this stage, you get all of the characters you use on your team to level 70 plus ascended, get their weapons to level 80, and their relevant talents to level 8. I also recommend that you give them some decent artifacts and level those artifacts to plus 16. This is also the point where I'd seriously start considering building 2 teams for the Spiral Abyss, that way you can get those extra Primo Gems every 2 weeks. Remember, you don't ever lose out on Adventure Rank experience, it just gets banked for you and used later, so there's no need to rush to complete the AR45 Ascension quest to increase your world level. Once your team is nice and strong and you can crush enemies in just a few seconds, you'll know you're ready to complete the AR45 Ascension quest and move on to world level 6. This phase encompasses adventure ranks 45 through 49, and guess what you're going to be doing here? Farming more artifacts! In this phase, you'll want to continue farming artifacts as well as keep building the other characters on your team and farming Leylines for Mora and experience books. If you didn't previously get your main team to level 70 plus ascended with level 8 talents and plus 16 5-star artifacts, now is the time to do so. Once your characters are nice and strong, it's time to move on to the last phase of the account building guide. When you reach adventure rank 50, it's time for your final Ascension quest. By now you should be pretty strong, and if you've been following the guide, you won't feel much of a difference in enemy difficulty once you've ascended to world level 7. So now that you've reached the penultimate world level, it's time to make a few upgrades. First, you're going to want to level your weapon up to 90. This is about a 10% damage increase, and it will take about 140 resin worth of weapon domain materials to achieve. Secondly, you'll want to take any 5-star artifacts you do not have at plus 20 and get them to plus 20, which is about a 6% damage increase overall. After doing these first 2 steps for the character you've been focusing on, start this process for the other characters you've been leveling on the team alongside them. Make sure your main team members all have level 90 weapons, and then run more artifact domains and upgrade what each team member has, while also replacing their artifacts with better ones you get along the way. After that, you can do the final ascension for your characters if you wish. This is where you take them from level 79 to 80, and then do their final ascension, increasing their level cap all the way up to 90. This isn't a priority for most characters, as getting to level 90 is only about a 4% increase in damage, and you'll need to use about 600 resin for their character Ascension materials and gemstones, but that doesn't even include any of the extra Mora or experience books you'll need along the way. However, because this is Genshin Impact and there are always exceptions, there are some characters, particularly those who specialize in transformative reactions, like Venti, Sucrose, Kazuha, and Elemental Mastery builds for Hyperbloom Raiden, Yaimiko, and Kuki Shinobu that really do want to be level 90. The difference in the transformative reaction damage those characters can make, namely Swirl and Hyperbloom, is massive when going from level 80 to level 90. It's about a 37% increase, so it's definitely worth using your experience books to level up characters that specialize in transformative reactions. There is one final world level increase at Adventure Rank 55, but that happens automatically, and it doesn't really change the build priorities at all, so just keep following the previous steps and you'll be golden. And you did it! You're now a Genshin Pro! You've gone from a level 1 Dull Blade to a level 90 Gigafav. I know this has been a lot of information, and I don't expect you to memorize this guide, so feel free to come back to this video whenever you need it. I want this video to be a tool that you can use in your leveling journey because it will take quite a bit of time to go from Adventure Rank 0 to Adventure Rank 50+. And that's also why I've included other resources like the character building guide, the artifact guide, and other videos that are really helpful in the description below. Make sure to give this video a like, as it really does help out a lot. And sub to the channel if you'd like to see more videos and notifications about free Primo Gems. I love you all, stay jawsome, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.